as you would expect from students. And I will tell you, this is my favorite group because I always think their insights are the best. No offense, adults, I be one, but they're the best. So there were enough of these that we tried to combine them. And everybody that's on, that's going to see the recording, I want you to know this is students. So you're not necessarily going to hear your specific question. You could, or you're going to see a version where we took two that were very much the same and put them together. Or we had a third that would actually captured both yours and somebody else's. But what did emerge, Dr. Ganson, and I want you to know first and foremost, and I grouped the questions in these categories. So in case we don't get to every single question, you will get the categories covered. And there are 6 of those. So there's one under equity and inclusion, and there were 2 questions submitted. So we'll try to get to both. Under the current pandemic status, if you will, there's 1. There are 3 in the mental health category. There is 1 in safety, 1 about board relationship, and there's 4 around the post-COVID, what's coming next. So those are really the 6 categories. I'm going to take a question out of each one and then come back to them to make sure all the categories get covered. We have some extra questions in case we have enough time. And I will say one about the extra question. It will be the last one I ask you. I've done it in the last 2, and you will smile, and I am smiling just thinking about the question. So we'll leave it at that. So again, such a pleasure to see you again, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So under the equity and inclusion topic or category, the first one that we'd like you to share your thoughts on is, how do you plan to help students and their families understand and solve current issues like racism, abuse, hunger, homelessness, bullying, and more in the Salt Lake City School District?
So as superintendent of Salt Lake City School District, I would expect and support the implementation of a true student services model that's responsive to students and their families' needs at the building level. This team would include people like social workers, school counselors, the school administrators, school psychologists, mental health therapists, and so people like that would be able to work with students and families, as I said. If a student is focused or has trauma, we don't want them to be re-traumatized. And so we've got to make sure that that doesn't happen so that students are able to attend to the daily lesson. And so helping to strengthen and support families, we know strengthens and supports students. And that's why this question is so relevant and so meaningful to the work that we have to do. If students are worried about other things, they can't focus on school. They can't focus on their academics. And so I work to build a culture that's absent of judgment. I would build positive relationships with students and families and expect district staff to do the same. Work to assess the needs and determine the support that can be provided to the students and the families. And what we can't do in the district directly, refer them to outside agencies, nonprofits, and other departments that are partners with the district. Establish a case management plan, because we want to make sure that the services the district provides are of quality and are meeting the needs of the family and the students. But we also want to be able to follow up with the family and those outside agencies that we might have referred them to make sure that contact was made and that, again, the services are being delivered and those services are meaningful and benefiting the family. So also create a positive physical space in our school, putting up positive visuals, quotes to inspire students, thinking, calming spaces for students that might have experienced some of the traumas or be experiencing some of the traumas that you mentioned. working on building resilience in students to help them gain a better understanding of the situation that they're in and counteract the negative stigma that's related to some of those things so that they can attend to school. Host town hall and community meetings where we invite local experts to speak with students and families about various topics. Enforce a no tolerance environment for racism, bullying, harassment. Follow district policies and make sure that others do as well. And ensure the systemic implementation of restorative practices in our buildings are just a few of the things that I would do.
Thank you. And you actually captured a part of the safety question and a part of the other equity and inclusion statement. So we'll get to that. I just want to add a couple of things. We probably are in a situation from a time standpoint that if you could keep about 2 minutes max per answer is perfect. And I want to leave you enough time at the end because I deliberately jumped into, with only a half hour, the questions for the sake of the students. But I will save you enough time so that you get to spend a few minutes to really appropriately introduce yourself and share your experiences.
Excellent.
Because you're a very interesting soul and everybody needs to know that.
Thank you.
All right. Second one in the category of the current pandemic. How do you plan on keeping students safe during the ongoing pandemic? And what will the rules be regarding masks, social distancing, and hybrid scheduling, et cetera?
So continue the district mitigation strategies that have already been implemented. I would want to work and study what other districts are doing, not only in our state, but outside of the district to see if there are updates and enhancements that we could add to our plan. Continue to provide students and parents with choice. I think choice is extremely important so that families and students feel comfortable in whatever learning model they're participating in. Make sure that we follow CDC, Utah Department of Health, and the Utah State Board of Education guidance. And so I would not work to change anything coming in immediately. I would need to study and really understand what the district has done, and then work with the medical experts and those agencies that I described to see what our next steps are.
Thank you. All right, under the category of mental health, and again, keep in mind, these are my groupings, so everybody be patient with me, okay? So thank you. All right, what will you do to improve the increasing mental health challenges of students and teachers going, now and going forward?
So what I think is extremely important is that first we have, through our insurance carrier, a dedicated line to ensure that employees are able to reach out to our employee assistance program. I work with HR to come up with some social activities that our teachers can participate in for mental health and just kind of respite, so that our teachers understand self-care and understand that we need them mentally strong and mentally fit in the classroom. And then again, where necessary, make referrals for our teachers so that they can get the services that they are needed. For our students, one of the things that I'll do, and I'll just skip to it, in my district, we actually have contract mental health therapists on all of our campuses. And so one of the things that I'm very interested in doing is working with the community here and the school district to see how we can come up with a model to provide mental health therapists to support the work that we do with that student services team that I described in the earlier question, as we're providing mental health supports, guidance for our students in the building, and being able to provide those therapeutic services through those mental health therapists.
Thank you. So as I indicated, you touched on this question, but maybe I'll give you a minute or so to amplify a little bit. This is more in the safety side of, or student safety. How will you work to create safe and welcoming learning environments and help all students to know that they will be supported and validated in whoever they are.
And so it's important to me that students report to school and they're able to be their authentic selves. So in order to maintain a safe and welcoming environment, it has to be a priority. And so some of the strategies that I would employ would be things like ensuring staff engage students in meaningful and trusting relationships, build a sense of community and ownership at each school, provide staff training, training for staff in areas of how to deal with bullying, protective behaviors, classroom management, crisis intervention, violence and risk assessment. I will react to community incidents and partner with local law enforcement, the courts, and social service agencies so that we're proactive in dealing with issues that might carry over into our schools. Ensure safe technology usage policies are in place and that they are adhered to. Review and revise the student code of conduct regularly with staff, student, and family input, and ensure consistent application of rules so that we don't have disproportionate suspension and we have unfair application of our discipline rules in the district.
Thank you. The category of board and superintendent relationship. What skills do you have that will unite the board members into a more functional team?
So with this question, first I have to lead in with the understanding that if hired as superintendent, the board would actually be my supervisor. The superintendent is an employee of the board, so I want to make sure I acknowledge that. Also, I want to acknowledge that not a lot of people line up to be board members, so that this is a lot of work and decision making, and you have to value the people that have decided to take this on, volunteer to do this work. So in working with the board, I think it's necessary to do some team building and board superintendent training together so that we start establishing some norms through planned retreats. But I would always start with assuming positive intentions and positive assumptions. I would respect and value each board member. I would amplify the voices of each board member and help them to hear and respect the perspectives of one another. I know when to say no, and I can easily say no and help boards to understand my rationale for no. I will keep the focus on students because students are our primary business, and keep all of our dealings focused on students and the governance of our district. And I embrace positive conflict. Conflict can help move the district forward, but we don't want conflict for conflict's sake. And so through conversations, building meaningful relationships, and leading by example are some of the things that I would do.
Thank you. So Dr. Gatson, we're now going to turn our attention to the post-COVID environment. I just love how these students have taken us down all the roads. It's so positive. What resources is the district willing to provide for students who have fallen back significantly because of the pandemic? Great question.
So, of course, I would need to be hired to know what resources we are able to provide. But I am in support of providing any resource that we have the authority and the resources to provide for our students. Things like extended school day and extended school year. Those extended learning opportunities are going to be so important for our students. Summer school, compacting the curriculum so that we can help fill foundational gaps that students will have while helping to move them forward in next course or next grade level content. Offering competency-based opportunities for students to be able to demonstrate mastery of course standards and receive credit versus having to sit through entire courses. If they already know it, why would we have them to sit through courses? Offering credit recovery to students who have fallen behind in credits to ensure on-time graduation, and offering virtual school. Choice for families and students is extremely important to me. And I know that some students have to work and have other responsibilities that they need to take care of. So offering synchronous and asynchronous opportunities through a virtual academy would help those students attend to school and their family responsibilities.
Thank you. So I'm going to be part of this last equity and inclusion piece because it asks about your background and how that will help you. And I think it's very important that everybody has a chance to know as much about you as possible.
Okay.
So the question reads, Salt Lake City schools have a very diverse population. How do you think your background will help you to create solutions that will best address everyone? Right up your alley.
Very, very great question. So I come from districts that are extremely diverse, and I embrace diversity. I understand the strength in diversity. And so I think that is an asset to our district. And so what I would do is make sure that a firm foundation is laid, where we create an environment of expectations, of equity and inclusion. Create a reporting process where if there are feelings that we are not walking the talk, that we're able to report it and we're able to look into and rectify situations. Empower critical thinking. Help students analyze biases and gaps and respectfully call them out. We have to empower our students to be able to call us out when we're not doing what we say we need to do. Allow students to actively participate as partners in the learning process. Afford students the opportunity to share their reasonings and understandings with their classmates, because this bridges those cultural differences and provides that social aspect that students need in the classroom. Highlight and expect culturally relevant teaching, and that's work that I'm doing in my current district and have done. Provide family and community engagement opportunities. Families and communities must be partners in the work that we're doing because they're able to share and help us make sure that learning is relevant for students and help us provide jobs, internships, and other ways to allow students to apply their learning in real world situations. Make sure that we include social emotional learning in all of our daily lessons. This is so extremely important. Student empowerment, give students voice in the learning process, in how they learn, because students can tell us what's working and what's not working and recommend what we need to do. And make sure that there's positive and inclusive language in our building, respectful of all of our students.
Thank you. All right, we got about 10, 12 minutes and we're in good shape question-wise, so we're fine. Back to the mental health category. This one's interesting. What do you think about offering students mental health days and excused absences?
I think it's a novel idea. I mean, I love that idea. And so because I know how districts are funded, we would need to look at and how credit is awarded to students. We would need to look into the school calendar, the contact days, instructional minutes, all of those things. But I definitely support, and parents already have the right, if they think a student needs a day off, to call that day in and get that absence excused. And so I think parents would love to have that choice and the discretion to make that determination versus the district establishing set days, because I want students to be mindful that it might create some childcare issues for families with younger students. It might also create situations of food insecurity for our students who rely on the meals that they receive at schools when we're giving them those days off. And so it's a novel idea that we can definitely look into, but we would need to look at what the possible barriers are and what the possible opportunities are to offer that.
Thank you. Another one in the post-COVID era type question. What are your plans for the future of the district, especially as the impact of COVID-19 starts to go away?
And so one of the things that I would say for the sake of time is to make sure that I continue to follow the guidance that is available to us, because it's important for me to make sure that students and staff are safe when learning. And so that would be continued work that I would do. But also what's more important to me is continuing to provide choice to students and families of the learning models that they will engage in for whatever the situation is, because they have to be comfortable in school or learning remotely. The goal is for them to learn, and however we feel they learn best in partnership with the student and family, I think we need to continue to provide that choice for as long as we can.
Super, thank you. All right, back to another post-COVID question. And what I'm going to do is give you the one question I told you was coming that makes me smile. And then ask you to share a little bit about who Dr. Timothy Gatson is and how you got here. And then we can wrap up. We have about 6 or 7 minutes, so we should be in good shape. So, and the post-COVID is what this would be the last one in this category. What is your opinion on going back to school in person, and for each, including going back at which levels or each level for each student?
I'm in full support of students being in school full-time in person, as long as it can be done safely. And I can't stress that enough. Whatever decision we make, it has to be done safely, and it has to be done in partnership with each student and family so that they're able to make a personal choice, and we as the district respond to that choice to personalize the learning experience for those students. And so I want to be very clear that I am in support of a return to full-time in person. That's one of the joys. Students are our primary business, and they need to be in school.
Thank you. All right. This is actually exercising student vernacular as well. So, do you plan on having George Bush lunch or Michelle Obama lunch? Good lunch or bad lunch?
So as a former social studies teacher, I think someone has been teaching our students, because to be able to ask that question, you need to know what the policies were under the George Bush administration, and then what the policies were under the Obama administration, with our former First Lady leading that. And so I will take the middle of the road approach. I will offer lunches that are healthy, but choice. I will commit to making sure that my cabinet staff, including child nutrition staff, taste any food that students feel don't taste good, is not of quality. We did this work in Atlanta because our students complained about the baked fries and things like that. And so I feel that food can be healthy and nutritious and taste good. They don't have to be healthy, bland, and taste horrible. And so I want our students to be able to enjoy the lunch. I want it to be healthy and nutritious, and them to have viable choices in the food they choose.
The only thing I want to say before we give you a chance to tell us a little more about you is that these kind of questions, these kind of insights, these kinds of thoughtfulness are why you're in this business, and your love for it is why you do it so well. And it's why I've been in this business for a very long time, just on the outside, not necessarily directly in the district.
Most definitely.
It's just a pleasure. All right, Dr. Gatson, please share with students across this district Who is Timothy Gadsden? How'd you get here? What'd you like to see? Where'd you
And
like
so
to
very briefly, in the time that I have left, what I will say,
3 or 4 minutes.
okay, what I will say is I am Timothy Gadsden, son of Timothy Gadsden Jr. and Betty Gadsden, grandson of Alberta McLeod. And I mentioned my 95-year-old grandmother because it was she who predicted that I was going to be a teacher. I didn't think I was going to be, and a part of that is because I think my sister, who was always the teacher when we played school, because she didn't allow me that opportunity, I didn't see myself in that position. And it was only after I went to college for business economics that the dean of the College of Education approached me, as well as other Black males across the university, and told us that we needed more Black males in education. This didn't make sense to me because I wasn't an ed major, but when he sweetened the deal and said he would pay for my junior and senior year of college, I didn't have to change my major. If I took secondary education courses, that was an excellent deal for me, and I took that opportunity. Because I signed a non-compete clause with a company after I graduated for work, my mom got sick and I had to go home. They wouldn't release me from that no compete clause. I needed to work because we weren't wealthy, so I had to figure out what to do. And I remember I had that teacher certification. Started teaching and loved it. Have not looked back because I know that as an educator, I touch my own future every day. I want to make sure that I prepare my future well. I want to make sure that my future is creative, collaborative, can think critically, and are problem solvers, so that when they're leading and they have to help take care of me, they're prepared to do that. There's nothing more scary than to know that I have not done a good job with a student and having to look that student in the face because now that student is my doctor, and wondering if that student has what he needs to do to properly maintain my health. And so I'm invested in this. I have a 1-year-old that I want to make sure that I prepare a school district that will benefit him and all students in that district so that they are prepared for college, career, and life. And that's who I am. I'm about children. I'm about the business of educating children. And I put children first in my decision making.
Thank you, Dr. Gadsden. To all of you out there, to those that are watching at the moment, to those that will see this as it streams, I want to thank you all for paying attention, being involved, and realizing that your next leader has a whole lot to do with the kind of school you attend and the good work that your teachers will continue to do throughout your career. Thank you for your interest. And most importantly, stay with it, keep it up. Things are going to get better. And we're all cheering for you, but we're all working hard for you. And Dr. Gadsden hopes he has an opportunity to do that too.
Thank you, sir.
Most importantly, be well and be safe. Just be well and be safe. Take care.